Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. This one is an interesting one. I got two Rogan clips for you, okay? So I just want to say immigration riots, right? So one is Joe Rogan talking about a riot that broke out in an airport in France when they tried to deport a bunch of illegal immigrants. And then another clip is Sam Tripoli, Joe Rogan's friend, predicting that immigration riots are going to start popping up all over Europe and all over North America. And it seems like he was right. So I'm going to be showing you the first clip, then the second clip. Then we're going to touch on the Red Cross a little bit, because Rogan brings up how the Red Cross is actually giving people information to actually make their way to Eagle Pass, to the southern border. And then we're going to start touching on the actual airport riot and just talking a little bit about what's going on with France, because that's a little window into the future of what's going to happen in America. I think, based on all of this, you be the judge. I'm going to show it all to you. Discount code is I am Coach Colin, all capital letters, all one word, one L in the name, Colin at IamCoachColin.com. Let's get into the first clip.
Red Cross seems like a good one. But also, wasn't the Red Cross one of the people that was helping people map out the way to illegally enter the U.S.? Wasn't that one of the things that the Red Cross was doing? Google that. But that could be also that the Red Cross is a legitimate charitable organization and it realizes that these people are going to do this no matter what and show them the way to do it that's safe. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. I mean,
they're going to do it.
Showing them the way that's safe, to me, seems like, like almost an ethical thing to do if you know that this is happening. And then providing them aid along the way so they don't die. That seems like, the whole immigration thing is very complicated, You came from immigrants, I came from immigrants, or my grandparents were immigrants. But it's just the way they're doing it, where anybody can get through, is so wild. So the Red Cross has provided maps to migrants traveling towards the U.S. border. Now, what is their reasoning? Is the Red Cross giving maps to migrants? The map on the social media is real. Different versions have existed since at least 2018, and some have been distributed by the International Committee of the Red Cross. The ICRC is a consortium of Red Cross agencies, including the American Red Cross. The map is a part of an informational safety pamphlet provided by aid organizations, including the National Red Cross Societies, to migrants traveling to Central America. The pamphlet also includes resource information like where to find food, shelter, and medical assistance. While the map has been around since at least 2018, American Red Cross partnered with the Mexican Red Cross and others during the COVID-19 pandemic to promote these safety materials. The Red Cross logos appeared across the top of the map. The American Red Cross logo was removed in 2022 after the COVID-19 partnership expired. The current pamphlet containing the map shows the current partners are the National Red Cross Societies of Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. It does not seek to encourage or discourage migration, but rather to contribute to mitigating the vulnerability factors of this population during the migratory route.
I can live with that, Joe.
I can live with that, too.
I can live with that. That's fair.
Yeah, that's not encouraging people to do it. That's saying they're doing it. Let's make it so at least they have like a safe way to do it.
Listen, man, this migrant situation has turned everything around. From New York City, Chicago, L.A., they're everywhere, And, tax money, and New York's giving you $10,000 now. An ATM card, right? They give you $10,000 if you're a migrant.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And I don't know. There's a lot to say. Like, look at our fucking vets, how they get treated. Look, So
I'm going to send you this, Jamie. See what's going on in Paris? They were trying to kick these dudes out of the country, and they started a riot at the airport.
Who are they trying to kick out?
Illegal immigrants. I'll show you. Jamie, I just sent it to you. Yeah, and they're like, no, we're not going. They're like, you have to go. There's too many of you. They're like, no, fuck you. We're not flying. And they started a riot at the airport. They're trying to deport them. And they're like, we're here.
Listen, all I remember is one thing, Joe, and I use this, and I'm not saying nothing bad about anybody. Look
at this. Give me the volume. This is a full-on Donnybrook at the airport. They're beating up attendants. Security guys are getting fucked up. Just wild shit, man.
So they got them over there too?
They have a lot of migrants in Europe. Yeah, it's basically, it happened right after the pandemic in mass. It's just massive amounts of migrants in Europe, massive amounts of migrants here. It's almost like it's on purpose. If it's not on purpose, what a coincidence.
But it seemed like there just wasn't migrants coming in. But what I was telling you before was, I think I told you last time, I saw what the Mario boat lift did to my area, Hudson County, not in 1979, but I saw it 5 years later. And then I saw what they were doing in San Francisco. When I got to San Francisco in 85, there was a huge Cuban population.
San Francisco. So this is the people that took off
from Mario in 78, 79.
Is this when Fidel kicked them out?
Yes. He kicked out 160,000 people. We didn't have records on these people. So we didn't really know what they were about. They could just tell you, I worked in construction, and they didn't know. So this is that, but 10 times.
Right.
That was 100,000 people, 200,000. This is 8 million or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? That's come through?
At least.
You're not going to feel this today. You're going to feel this 5 years from now.
Well, they could feel it real soon, depending upon who the people are and why they're here. The most troubling version is sleeper cells. The most troubling version is that there's military cells that exist here. Terrorist
the Chinese
cells.
were coming in, and now they're growing weed.
They've been growing that stuff, quite honestly, since I was young. But let's get into this whole thing. And you know what? Just to right off the bat to what Joe just said, that is someone in the comments was like, what happens when all of these guys get the signal? I think they said something along those lines in the comment section. Someone was like, what happens when they all get the signal? What happens when they all, do the thing that they're there to do, right? Because that's the darkest fear that could be going on, is that they're all there and they're all supposed to do something at some point. Now, obviously, we got Venezuelans, Chileans, Brazilians, people from Yemen, people from probably Israel, Gaza, not really those two places, but possible. Anything's possible. Russia, China. So obviously, when you say, what are they all going to do in this coordinated effort? It's not like all of these places are working together and all these people. The fear is that there's some people with nefarious mindsets, and what are they going to do when they get the little signal, when they get the little phrase, you know what I mean? And it's interesting. Now, let's move on to Sam Tripoli. Sam Tripoli was a guest on Joe Rogan's Fight Companion, one of them where Eddie Bravo was out, but Sam made sure to hold up the Eddie Bravo torch on this podcast, and he was like, hey, you guys want to know what's next? And they were like, what's next? They treated it like a joke. But now you just saw a clip of Joe talking about a literal riot that broke out in an airport. And I'll show you a couple of images from that. I know some people are probably wondering, why didn't you let us see it when Joe was showing it? You can't show that type of violence on YouTube. Little, that's why I should be working with the Joe Rogan Experience. They don't know why they get canceled so much on YouTube. Well, that's why. Things like that. You can't show stuff like that. But I'll show you some still images. I'll break down what happened. We'll get into that. But listen to this first. Let's get into it.
Stream of all
you
news.
You had a conspiracy for us at dinner, but Joe made you wait. What was it?
Oh yeah, that's right. What was it?
You want? Well,
which one was it?
What's going to happen?
Oh yeah, you want to know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
With what?
In this country.
Okay, yeah, I said
yeah.
So
you want to hear now?
Yeah.
Tap me in.
We're in the Bolshevik War right now, bro. And right now what's coming up is all the pride stuff is going to be, okay, so I had this woman come on my podcast. Her name's Mel K. And we had gotten in real trouble on this show before because we talked about this one family that I will not name, okay? And every time we named this family, the 4 tech gods all came down and just fucked my show. Just
the Rothschilds?
All of, no.
Say it.
I'm not saying their name, bro.
Brian's trying to tank his own show.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? That's how much he loves the deep state.
So she comes out again. We just mentioned what happened on the show. They do it to us again. We just mentioned their name. You remember when we talked about them? And it happens again.
Damn.
So
what are they doing when this happened? Let me say they do this to you. What do they do to you?
Okay, so on Apple, Google, Twitter, and Facebook all effed me.
How so?
Like shadow ban, suppression?
No, even
How
worse.
so?
Even worse. So on Apple, they listed my podcast that no one listened to it for they showed nobody listening to the podcast.
So they block people from listening
No,
to it?
They won't
like
show
when
the
you go to
downloads.
see what how your podcast is doing, it listed nobody. Not just one episode, multiple episodes. I got strikes and deletes on my YouTube channel and all my Facebooks. I couldn't get into my Facebook.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was just like boom, 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 all on one thing when I named
And
this.
what did you mention that this family had done
That
was so egregious?
This is funny because it involves something to Brian, that basically this family is so rich that people think that the CFR is just basically their board of trustees
What's
of all their
CFR?
companies. The
Council of
CFR.
Foreign Relations.
Oh, sorry.
They're
Come
your
on, dude.
babysitters, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. What are you talking about, dog? Right?
They're the people that taught you how to jerk off.
Yeah. They're the ones who taught you how to tie your fucking shoes
My
and
favorite,
shit.
my favorite is Joe's like, you don't believe in conspiracy theories because you love your dad. Remember?
So Mel
that's what it
K,
is.
Facts.
Mel K comes on my show, and she's like, she goes, I've been talking to some people in the intelligence, and they go, this gay pride stuff is going away, and the next thing you're going to see are immigration riots. This is going to be right around the next election. So, hand to God, we do this episode. Next day, Starbucks is like, we're banning all the pride stuff. And now you start seeing these they're putting little breadcrumbs out, man. Little breadcrumbs. Oh, I saw this one thing in Chicago. Oh, yeah, illegal immigrants are upset about where they're staying. And these illegal immigrants who speak no English are holding up perfectly written English signs saying we're tired of how we're being treated. And now you're starting to see this over and over again. So everyone's always like, when all these Republican governors are like sending these immigrants all over the country,
New
everyone's
York.
like, yeah, you're showing those Democrats. Bro, they're moving assets. I know it sounds crazy, but that is 100
What do you
what
mean
happened.
they're moving assets? What do you mean?
Dude, these guys coming into the country, bro, have you seen them? A lot of them are Chinese, and a lot of them are military-age
Russian, too.
people. And I'm telling you, they're moving, and this is what's going to be right around 2024 election. Immigration riots, people going nuts, and as listen to this, and you'll start seeing all the little breadcrumbs being put out.
May I give you another scenario?
Oh, no.
May I give you another possible scenario? I hate to piss on your parade. What if we do have open borders? Thank you, Joe Biden, and a complete disaster down the border, and so governors like Greg Abbott are going, how about you guys want a taste of what we're dealing with? Hey, New York, here you go. They bust 13,000 immigrants in New York. Eric Adams goes, we don't have the resources for
Yeah,
this.
Brian.
And that's a good way to
But
teach the
Brian-
blue states to change their border
Yeah,
policies.
that's what they want you to
That's what
think.
you to
That's how
think,
you
dude.
get into.
This is Brian. Look, I'm a puppet master. That's what
I'm telling
doing.
you, that's
I'm
what
the
they
one-
want you to
You're buying,
think.
you're buying it.
Oh, I thought I
They're
was a
No, you're the
moving
puppet.
assets, bro.
You're the puppet.
They're moving
What
assets.
do you mean, like military people?
Dude,
man.
study the Bolshevik War. It is happening in
Bolshevik
real
revolution?
time. 100%.
But-
I just wanted to get that out to everybody because I'm trying to warn people. This is what's next.
Do you think?
Now, when he said this was 6 months ago. And now you're starting to see more and more of that. And here's the thing. When he first said that, I was like, huh, that's interesting. Then I've seen some signs of it. He even reposted, this clip is from my show. He reposted this show because he was like, you see what I'm talking about? And there's more and more. So he, on his Twitter, he keeps on showing examples of this kind of inching forward. And I agree, especially what you're seeing in Paris right now. And yes, it's Paris. It's not America. I understand that 100%. But it's in the wind. When you see something happening in Europe, when you see it happening in Canada, just know it's coming. It is. Right? And right now, the US is ripe for that. How many people? People are estimating, like someone said in the clip, 8 million. You know, I think Tucker and other people have speculated 15 million. And you don't know where they are. Because just like that TikTok influencer who was telling people to invade houses, they just disperse. They just go everywhere. Oh, you're supposed to be in New York. Okay. Now he's in Wisconsin. Now he's over there in Idaho. Like they're just gonna keep moving around because they can. They have money. They have phones. They have resource. Some of them will stay just in New York. Some of them will stay just in Chicago. It's very, very interesting. And then the main thing is when he said move assets, now that I listened to it again, I was having this thought process because I was like, I really like Greg Abbott. I like what Greg Abbott's been doing. I like how he's been handling himself. But at the same time, he did, and I'm not saying that this shit, I love Texas, but he did take all of these people and just kind of start shipping them all over. They were in one place, and there could have been some way of being like, everybody's going to stay here. That could have happened, would have overwhelmed Texas, and that's not fair, but that could have happened. But instead, it was like, boom, bus loads to New York. Boom, bus loads to Chicago. busloads to California, busloads here, busloads there. Now he's sending them everywhere. As much as it's great to see it, like even Brian was speculating, Brian Callen, really odd how proud he is of being co-opted. Really, really proud. It's very interesting. Like he wears it like a badge of honor. Like, oh, my dad was part of the deep state. It's so bizarre. But like he said, he was saying, he was talking about how it's going to stick it to the blue states, right? Give you a taste of what we're going through. That's true. That's what it does. But it also brings a whole bunch of people that nobody really knows for sure of all over the country. So when you hear him say moving assets, that's what he means. Because here's the thing. If all of these people came over, and of course, this is logistically, I mean, if we're thinking about 10 million people, I don't even understand how that could happen. But if they all had to stay in one place and they weren't allowed to move around all that much, it would be like a quarantine, like a containment of sorts. But when you do what Abbott has done, you're moving around all these possible assets just everywhere. Now, why do I think that about Abbott? Well, I've done episodes. I did an episode a long time ago talking about 2 governors who have been co-opted by the World Economic Forum. And he was one of them. Another one was Whitmer, I believe. Governor of Michigan, I believe. Might be wrong about that. But she was one of them, definite. And so was he. And in fact, in that video that I did, I even found a video of somebody confronting him and saying, will you condemn the World Economic Forum? Will you denounce them? And he refused to do it. He was asking him very politely. It wasn't like a disgruntled guy screaming in his face. He was just saying, he's like, will you here and now on video denounce the World Economic Forum? He wouldn't do it. So I looked into him deeper. And it seems like he has participated in a lot of stuff going on in the World Economic Forum. He wasn't a young global leader or anything like that, but he does have ties. So to see someone who seemingly has ties executing something that inches us close to the completion of Agenda 2030, it's a little suspect in my mind. Now, moving on. I know it's a big just moving on, but this is the Red Cross map that they were all looking at. Now, what this map actually does is, I think Brett Weinstein talked about this a little bit with Tucker. It shows where they can stop for food, where they can get a place to sleep, what places are too dangerous to even think about staying at or going to. So that's what this map is for. Apparently right around here, which is pretty big, but this is like extremely dangerous here. In fact, what I was hearing, I did an episode on this as well, is that the Chinese migrants that come in, they're around here and they actually take a boat and they avoid all the danger and then they pop right back in and they make their way like that. That's what was going on. And it might even be further, but they take a boat around all the danger and then they have their own camps that are set up. That was something that Brett Weinstein was talking about. Now, again, it is kind of ethical for the Red Cross to do this because it's like they're doing it. It's like when a town decides to hand out Narcan and safe needles. They're like, people won't stop doing it, but we want them to live. We want a higher chance of them living, so we're going to give them some clean needles. We're going to give them a place to do it. And it's not good, but it's in ways better than what could happen in terms of just having people laid out everywhere, like Kensington, Philadelphia, right? So I kind of get what they're doing, but also they kind of denied. There was a point where they denied this going on. They're like, oh no, we don't do this. And then people started getting a hold of these maps and showing people, and then they kind of came out and said it. Now, moving on to the whole Paris thing, this is the video. Again, you can't show that type of violence, but I can tell you right now what you're seeing is people who are just fighting. It was in something called Charles de Gaulle Airport. There were hundreds of migrants that were supposed to be deported back to their homelands. And then a bunch of people who weren't supposed to be deported and the ones that were supposed to be deported all started fighting the officials that were trying to organize them onto planes and get them out of France. They just started fighting, and it was a real fight. I'm talking about they were grabbing poles, hundreds of people fighting. The officials could not stand their ground at all because, you know, if there's 400, there's not going to be 400 officials just standing around, especially in an airport. There's just really airport staff and a few people from their, I don't know, their version of ICE, let's just say, for basic rationing. But that's what ended up happening there. It's not the first time things like that have happened in France either. And again, I show you this stuff to show you like a little window into what's possible. This actually happened in 2019. That's an airport terminal. That's all people. All of that, that's all people. A few people trying to stand guard, not letting them out. That is all people. If those people just decided to run, they could run. And there's multiple videos like that in France where you see them rushing monuments, they're rushing land. They actually rushed a government building demanding that they all get papers. Again, I only say all this to just exemplify Joe Rogan's friend's point. Riots are very possible. They go on. So it sounded ridiculous when he said it, but not so much. France to kick out illegals for shoplifting and other minor crimes. President Macron says tougher measures are needed to fight lawlessness and terrorism. I do not like Macron. I don't like what he's been doing to the citizens of France, but at least he did something a little better. And that's a start, you know. Can't say he's not doing anything. So that's one good thing that he's done at least. So, but he's still like good friends with Justin Trudeau, like real, like too close, like in pictures like this close. You know, yeah. But it makes sense that they be friends. Anyway, that is what's going on in terms of the immigration riots. That is a real thing. Now, when Sam first said it, again, I heard it and I was like, okay. Like, that makes sense. You are seeing the other LGBTQ stuff disappear. You know, it's still at the forefront. The trans conversation is still happening heavily. All the conversation that's been happening is still happening, but you haven't seen it as prevalent as before, and you are starting to hear about immigration way more. And you are starting to see there's a lot of people. And there's going to be some that are in these shelters, you know, like when they clean out a school or any building and they kind of just set up cots everywhere. Those people aren't the happiest with their conditions. Now, the ones in the hotels, they might be pretty happy. Although I've seen interviews with some of them talking about the food and not really liking it and this and that. Who knows where all this leads? But eventually, here's the thing, and I brought this up before. When it comes to Trump gets reelected, he's going to want to round people up. He's going to want to put them in camps. And I'm not making this up. Everybody knows if you watch his channel, I'm pro-Trump. This is a real thing that he has planned. And and he's going to have National Guard to actually have this happen in woke cities. National Guard, just New York, National Guard everywhere. You know, Philly, National Guard everywhere. Chicago, National Guard everywhere. And they're going to be rounding these people up, trying to get them on buses or planes or whatever, what have you. They're going to try and deport them. What are all those people going to do when they figure out that's what's happening? When they figure out, and going back to what I said as soon as I stopped the videos before, you know, the signal. What's the signal? What ends up happening? Who knows? I don't even know if that's a real thing. But I will say a big signal will be, for a lot of people, if all of a sudden there's literal National Guard trying to round people up, that's going to be a signal to a lot of people to either run or resist. We're going to see those two things happen. And it's going to be weeks. I was going to say a week, but probably weeks of chaos because of it. And who knows? Who knows what happens? After it's done and the smoke settles, it'll be great. It will be great. And it will end up, you know, making America great, but also bringing the economy back and having people have a little more stability. So many Chicago residents that were kicked out of community centers and schools and malls and things of that nature, hotels, restaurants. they'll start getting their lives back in order. But before all that happens, there's going to be a lot of chaos. So I only say all that to say, Joe Rogan's buddy was right. Let me know what you think in the comments about this whole thing. If you think this is a possibility, if you see this happening right now, if you've experienced something like that in your streets, in your neighborhood, let me know in the comment section. Like, subscribe, and oh, I forgot, I have another channel. Oh, I was supposed to say it at the beginning. I have another channel where I'm doing just news content to break away from the Rogan content a little bit. So go and subscribe to that. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers. Like, subscribe, share to both. And I'm out.